What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. We're going to talk about off-season training as a functional fitness athlete. It is a worthy conversation. Let's have it. Let's talk about why it's important to us, how we do it, examples, et cetera, because the CrossFit Open is done. And for most of you, you are now entering a time where you're not competing. You've worked up to this moment. You've tried to express your greatest fitness, and now we should taper off that. For some of you, you might feel that intuitively, like, oh, I want to break. That's a good thing. Got to the top of the mountain and now you want to come back down. First thing I want to talk about that I think is really interesting is let's talk about a training season. You know, most sports have training seasons. So in the way that I would think about it, and the way that we do it with our personal programming athletes is you should have about 3 to 4 weeks off every year, completely off, like no gym. Is that possible for you, Madeline?
That makes me a little sad inside, but I'll do it.
Yep. You need to have that time completely off. For example, I know with you, you had a week a couple months ago where you did that. It wasn't even a deload. It was completely off.
Yeah, I did it.
You did.
And then I felt really great afterwards. So maybe it is important.
Yeah, it is. In season, preparing to compete. This is like severe intensity. This is like doing metabolic conditioning, EMOMs, intervals. It's about 10 to 14 weeks. It's about 3 months. That's it.
Got to savor those 3 months.
You should have somewhere between 35 and 40 weeks a year in the off season.
Bro.
Think about that for a second. 3 months of competing or preparing to compete, 8 months of off season, and maybe 1 month of doing nothing.
So I can't do like a competition every month?
Well, you can do a competition every month. It just means that you will never improve. And so if your goal is to just kind of just
keep competing,
you can, but I will tell you, you will burn out and eventually you'll hate it and you'll quit. That's what happens. Burnout is real. Because the intensity is so high, we can't sustain it. Like this is severe intensity, a lot of what we do in CrossFit. So that's the season. I think that that's like really interesting to think about. For a lot of people, after something like the CrossFit Open, they should go into a 6 to 8 month off season. If they feel really tired, maybe take a few weeks off. Go do something else. Go golf.
No,
it's a great thing to do. Or go on vacation or whatever, or just like give your body a rest. And then you'll go into a long off season. For some of you, if you want to compete again, I would recommend no more than 3 things a year. And I would say that's like for somebody that really wants to compete. For most of us, once a year is plenty. You just need a moment to express your fitness. If you don't do that, then you can't really tell if you're improving or not. You know what I'm saying? So the Open to me is like such an easy entry point for that because it's in your affiliate. It's like everybody's doing it. It gives you a chance to really go for it. Or a local competition is also something that you could do, but you probably need 1 a year, no more than 3. Because the thing is, before a competition, you need to taper into competing. It takes away from the off season too much. And we really shouldn't do more than 3 months a year of that really intense style of training. So let's just talk about a season example. Let's say the end of the Open till the end of August, you have an off season, you work on a priority, and then for about a month from September to October, you train for a competition and you do it. In October, you take a week off. And then you do another 3 month off season from November to January. And then in the middle of January, you do a 4 month prep to compete again. You taper for the competition, you compete. Then in February, you take a time off. And then you know what I mean? Like that's like kind of that rhythm that you can have. Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
So in that season example I just gave, that is 36 weeks of off season, 13 weeks of competing, and 3 weeks off. That's kind of like that's when we talk about off season, that's what we mean. So let's also just talk really quickly about Blue House athlete design.
I made this, guys, the template and everything. I'm cool.
Yeah. So yeah, all we're doing with this is it's an assessment. And what we're looking at is we're looking at your body composition. We're looking at your barbell strength, your gymnastics ability, your anaerobic capacity, and your aerobic capacity. Okay, and we have certain metrics that we want to see you get to based on an athlete profile. Think of any other sport out there. Anything that we do, there's a profile of the type of athlete you'd want to be. And so we'll use an athlete profile. There's some studies that they've used that we actually use for this that can kind of give us a baseline. And then we're working on trying to get people to kind of grow into that athlete profile. And so this should be what guides our off season. And I think that that's really important. Let's just talk through a couple examples. Let's say we fill out this Blue House athlete design for you. You're going to do personal programming for the off season, and you are somebody that needs to get stronger. Okay. So maybe your priorities would be hypertrophy, bodybuilding, and barbell strength. That's your number one priority. Your second priority would be gymnastic strength, because that's also how you get stronger. Gymnasts are actually the strongest athletes pound for pound. So that matters too. And that's gymnastic strength training, a lot different than what most of you are used to. And then third priority would be some aerobic capacity, conditioning, zone 2 type work. So here's your frequency for your training. You would train hypertrophy and barbell as your number one priority 5 times a week, 3 days working on your upper body, 2 days on your lower body. You would do gymnastic strength twice a week, and then you do your aerobic work once a week. So that would be an example of an off season. Pretty cool.
Sounds like you get pretty strong, if you ask me.
Kind of sounds like maybe
I've done that before.
Maybe you have. Okay, what if you're somebody that comes in and you're here's where you're limited based on our athlete profile. You do not have good Olympic lifting. Okay, that's where you struggle. You also do not have great pulling capacity in gymnastics, and your aerobic capacity is really bad, but you're very strong. You've hit all the biometrics, your squat is huge, you can push, your anaerobic capacity is high, but the other ones are low. For you, priorities might be aerobic capacity first, then gymnastic strength, pulling specifically, and then barbell skill as your third priority, because you need to increase. You have the strength to snatch, but your snatch is not where it could be based on your squat. So here's what your week might look like. Maybe you do conditioning 6 times a week, 6 sessions. So we do 3 quality sessions. So this would be intervals, hard stuff at a pace. And then you would do daily long, slow distance.
That sounds lovely to me.
Yeah. You would do gymnastic strength and skill twice a week, and you would do barbell skill twice a week. Maybe you'd have 1 day snatch, 1 day clean and jerk. So there's just a couple examples of what an off season could look like. How cool is that?
So cool.
Yeah. And let's just I think there are some people that I've been in class for so long. I'm a class, I need other people to train with. Here's the one thing I would say about that is you need to get into an environment that wants you to get better and succeed. If you have your own program and you have a coach that wants the best for you, and you have other people doing the same thing, I think you'll be surprised on how inspired you are to train. For most of us, we've gotten used to having peer support in our training, but I promise you, coach support is much stronger. But most of us have just been used to having a coach there when we show up. But what if you had a coach that was there guiding you the whole time, programming for you, communicating with you? That's pretty powerful. Having rhythms like the seasons of the year is a really good way to think about training. Okay, there's times, there's high times, there's low times. For most of us, we will be quite surprised on how good a down season feels, where the intensity comes down, where the priorities get really focused, where we work on what continues to kind of challenge us. You will be quite surprised on how effective that will be when you kind of ramp back up. And you'll be surprised on how good you feel when you ramp back up, because you've kind of taken some time to kind of recover. You have to have kind of this ebb and flow, and that's how you don't burn out. Okay, that is the most important. You can't just run on 10 all the time. You can't do it.
Unless you have C4.
Yes, well, exactly.
No, you can't. I agree.
Exactly.
As much as I wish we could.
And now I don't remember what I was going to say. No, sorry. But I think that point is important.
Also something important, you need to stick to a training plan for at least an entire season.
You have to stick to a program to see the results. Meaning, if things get too intermixed and you have a coach trying to get you to a certain desired result, if you do all this other stuff, it's totally going to throw that off. And the best example I could give from one of those programs I shared was if you're trying to get stronger, but somehow you're secretly off doing conditioning, coach is going to be confused because as we've talked about with concurrent training, if you are not specifically focusing on getting stronger, you will not get stronger. It will not happen. So again, this off season for most of you is just learning how to like slow down a little bit, focus on one thing, you know, and like imagine like the metaphor of like stacking bricks. Like you have to stack bricks one at a time. You can't stack them all at the same time. This is one at a time. And if you do that every off season, you will
Trust the process.
Rush it. Trust the process.
Yep.
Trust the process. So this is what an off season looks like. If you have questions, reach out to us.
Reach out to Madeline.
Yes.
Not Anton.
You need an off season. And we got you. It's something we've been thinking about a lot. So we would love to personally design a program and an off season for you. So let's get you started. We'll see you on the floor.